Hi there, you're watching me, Jenny Kirk, here on my YouTube channel, and this is going to be part 2 in what will hopefully be a long-running series where we look into the availability and suitability of different liveries of locomotives that are available, ready to run, suitable for different periods, all manner of stuff. Go back and have a look at part 1 where we talked a little bit about Class 25 liveries, but today what I want to look at is suitability and availability of pre-grouping locomotive. So without further ado, let's go and have a look. Well, what we've got here is quite a collection, quite an eclectic mix, but what I really want to focus on is the locomotives that are suitable for the pre-grouping period. One of the first locomotives that Bachmann actually produced in a livery ready to run, suitable for the pre-grouping period, is this. It's the Monsell N class, and it was done as part of a anniversary set they did in a wooden box, but what it actually depicts is the South Eastern and Chatham Railway austerity wartime grey. This is the First World War austerity, and the reason for this was that a lot of the men went to the front. Some of the pigments as well from the paints, things like Prussian blue, as the name might suggest, came from abroad, so all in all, it added up to the fact that there just wasn't the manpower available to paint these things in the more ornate liveries. So they came out in this really quite a drab grey, and it's a marked contrast from, if we see it there, the H-class, the Wainwright H-class, in this very, very ornate South Eastern and Chatham Railway livery, but it all sort of got this. Now, they wouldn't have all got this immediately. It wasn't like, right, the war's on, let's repaint everything. But as and when they came through the paint shops, this was what they tended to come out as. And these locomotives were built very late on in the South Eastern and Chatham Railway livery, so really only suitable for the last couple of years before the grouping period, although some of these liveries might have persisted a few years longer, maybe just with a renumber, who knows. It's also the case that if we look over here, Bachmann did also produce the C-class in the wartime austerity grey, and actually I quite like this. It's one of the things that I want to do is a First World War themed railway, and if you want to do that, then it's such a minefield of ready-to-run stuff that's suitable. Now, shortly to come, there's going to be a P-class that Hattons are producing, and one of the options for that is in this wartime grey livery, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm going to have one on order, and when the P-class comes from Hattons, I will be doing a box opening and review on that, but it's something that will be suitable for this period. Now, this model was quite a much later release from Bachmann. They brought it out actually as a Collectors Club model after the immense success of this one. Yeah, it's the one that everybody seems to want, which actually, I don't know, I think maybe it's because it was the novelty and the eye candy of that livery, but certainly what you're looking at there is a very ornate livery suitable for the immediately pre-First World War period, and the Wainwright H-class also came out in that, so we're pretty well catered for if you want to model the South Eastern and Chatham Railway. We've actually even had the birdcage coaches subject of a box opening and review. So we've got the coaches, hurrah! And that's something that has been sadly lacking, and that's the thing. For the pre-grouping period, locomotives have started to come through, but the wagons have not particularly followed. There's a few bits and pieces, but nothing special. What we've got here is, this is kind of an in-between from that very ornate livery. They toned it down a little bit. One of the big problems was those shiny brass domes tended to reflect sunlight back into the driver's eyes, made it very difficult for them to safely see signals. So it did get toned down a bit, a lot less expensive and labour intensive to produce this livery, and Bachmann followed suit. They've done this model, and this was another general release. I suppose they tried in a way to capitalise on the success, the roaring success. Actually, it probably took them by surprise just how successful this particular model was, but certainly because it's not as pretty a livery, it hung around a little bit longer. They are sold out now. But let's take a look at some of the other railway companies. We've got a P-class to follow. So South Eastern and Chatham Railway we're doing really well. There's what, 2, 3, 4 different locomotives between the C class, the H class, the N class, and shortly to come P class. So, we're doing pretty well there. But let's take a look at, let's see, Great Central Railway is another one that we're pretty well catered for. So, if we go up here, what we've got is, this is the Director class, the D11 Director class 440. This was actually produced initially as a special commission for the National Railway Museum. They announced and brought out this model in this livery, and if you wanted a director, it was really the only livery you could get. For a while, I bought this from Locomotion in Shildon, and I do like it. It's a very, very nice ornate livery. And they've now actually announced, I think it's Mons. Certainly this livery is reappearing in the main range along with several other liveries, LNWR and also BR Black. But we've got that. We've got our express locomotive. Nothing to pull as yet. Again, big issue if you're modelling pre-grouping. Rolling stock, you kind of have to fend for yourself. It is getting better than it was with the Oxford Rail 4-plank wagon and also their 6-wheel Great Western brake van, but other than that, we're really a little bit stuck. Now we've got this darker liveried Great Central Robinson 8K, later the LNWR 04, and this again was produced as just a standard re-livery of the main range model, so it wasn't an exclusive model, was an exclusive livery, never reappeared since, but for the National Railway Museum, and I have to admit, when I saw this, I think this was the first Great Central livery model that they produced. They kind of, in a way, it was a test run for the special commission of the director, and it sold exceptionally well, and I really would love to see more of these, and certainly a Great Central brake van would go a long way to actually allowing you to run a prototypical train. But, needs must. Locomotives, it's good that we've got these. So all in all, there's what, 3 available if you count Mons, which has been announced. But, it's not too bad. We've got the Express Passenger and we've got the pretty beefy freight locomotive there. So we're stumped too well for small tank locomotives. Other companies we are quite better off with. So let's go for a railway company where, let's have a look. Small tank locomotives. This is a Daypole model. The actual moulds themselves are now in the possession of Hornby, but this is the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Pug, and it's quite an old model now. This is from the 1990s, probably the earlier part of the 1990s, and I have a soft spot for it, but it's in Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway livery, number 19, and it doesn't really necessarily run the best as modern models, but certainly as far as small tank locomotives go, Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, this model's got you covered. Never appeared since, as far as I'm aware, in the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway livery. It's something that it would be nice to see if Hornby would bring it out in a Lancashire and Yorkshire livery. But in terms of that Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, we've also got the Aspinall 242 radial tank, and this is a model of the one that's in the National Railway Museum, number 1008. They've done 2 different runs of this. This one was the first, and it sold out very, very quickly. And then they rerun it, same locomotive, same livery, except it had Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway in an arc across the bunker sides. And I've done a box opening and review on that. I actually keep it in a different cabinet. But certainly 2 of these in Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway livery, same running number though, so you'd have to do some renumbering, but the complicated bit of the livery is there. Plus you've got that Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Pug, so there is a bit of something for Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, but again, we're not well provisioned. I think so far the consensus is that South Eastern and Chatham Railway, if you want a model pre-grouping ready to run, that's probably your ticket. Now up here, Great Western Railway. Now this has been a bit of an enigma for me in the pre-grouping period. This definitely is the pre-grouping livery, and this is the City of London with the Garter crest on the tender, and this was a safe bet, because the thing about the Great Western Railway was that they persisted through the grouping. They absorbed some of the railway companies, specifically things like Cambrian Railway, but essentially they were the same company, whereas the LMS, LNER and Southern Railway they were a conglomerate of various big companies. Great Western Railway just absorbed others. So with this locomotive, they were largely gone in the earlier of the Great Western Big Four period, but this particular model is firmly in the pre-grouping period. So the City of Truro model was first introduced as a National Railway Museum Special Commission, a lot like the Director class was subsequently. They've actually done several different runs of the City of Truro. It's proved one of their more popular models, that and the Deltic. But this was the main range regular release, so I felt, you know what, had to have this. As for other Great Western locomotives, well. The 72XX up there, no, absolutely not. They were actually built from 42XXs after grouping. However, the 42XX, I think some of the builds were actually just fell into the pre-grouping period. But as to livery options, it's very difficult to kind of nail down which liveries are suitable for the pre-grouping Great Western period and which aren't, especially for locomotives that were built fairly close to that 1923 date. So essentially what I've found is Great Western is such a huge minefield. Right, let's go for some of the other things knocking about here. The Midland Railway. Well, in the main range, hidden away for a brief period, this 4F, but we've got there 3848 in Midland Railway Black. And for a pretty run-of-the-mill freight locomotive, this is a perfect addition. So I had to get myself one of these, but they didn't seem to sell hugely well, it has to be said. It's not a sexy livery, but it's a mundane one that you're going to need if you're going to have a Midland Railway layout. And the Midland Railway was one of the biggest constituents that went into the LMS. And they actually, in 1922, absorbed their long-time rivals, the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway. So between 1922 and 1923, if you model that golden year, you could get away with having the Midland Railway liveries and the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway liveries mixed together on the same layout. I suppose 1922 could be a key period for modelling ready-to-run Midland Railway. Now, other locomotives that we can get ready to run, again, it's a little bit tough. We've got this, another National Railway Museum Special Commission. I believe that this is suitable for Midland Railway, but it's more likely that actually, as presented here, what you're seeing is the 1970s repaint of the locomotive in preservation rather than a strictly Midland Railway livery. That said, I bend the rules. So Midland Railway, yeah, get away with it. And the coaches, they've done some coaches which are sort of suitable, but I've not seen them ever released in Midland Railway livery. They have come out in LMS livery, and they were the ones that were in the ambulance train pack as well. So you could, strictly speaking, run that ambulance train pack as suitable for First World War up to about 1919. So that covers us for the pre-grouping period, but it probably look a bit odd being pulled by this. Here we are. This is worthy of a little bit of a note. This livery looks suitable for Midland Railway, but it's not. That is LMS livery. Don't be suckered. Looks like Midland Railway, but it's not. The giveaway is that crest there on the tender side. However, over here, Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. Now there's one. Appeared in the main range as number 23. This one, number 24, was I think a Cheltenham Model Centre Special Commission. Now the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway is a peculiar one because it persisted a little bit after grouping, because it was a joint railway between two railway companies, one of which was the Midland Railway. And so there's some locomotives like the 7F you can pick up in this Prussian blue livery, although I think strictly speaking that was produced, it was painted that way just for preservation, and the actual livery would have been black. And then there's this, which, special note, it's the 4F, and this was, I think this has the credit as being one of the fastest selling Backman Collectors Club locomotives, but, big warning for you, I'm not entirely sure. This is certainly, you're looking at very close to the 1923 period. May or may not be suitable for grouping. It certainly looks suitable, but I think it's right on the cusp of that 1923 period. Okay, let's have a look at some of the other railway companies that have been produced ready to run. London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. Again, this is the E4 that came from Bachmann. Didn't sell as well as they anticipated. After the C-Class, I think they thought, oh, well, these will sell by the bucket. And they actually produced Birch Grove as well as their Collectors Club model. That has sold out. This I do still occasionally see on the shelves, so not a difficult one to get. One thing I will say about London, Brighton and South Coast is that Bachmann have announced the H1 Atlantic in London, Brighton and South Coast Railway livery, so we're going to finally get an express locomotive suitable for that railway company. Another thing that needs saying, I think, as well, is that first Dapol and then latterly Hornby produced the Terrier locomotive. Now, by modern standards, a lot of people gripe at this. It's been a hybrid between the A1 and the A1X. Actually, I'll be honest with you, I quite like this model, and it's been introduced many times over the years in these colourful London, Brighton and South Coast liveries. I've also seen it in South Eastern and Chatham Railway livery, London and South Western Railway livery, and also Great Western Railway livery. Some of them were sold out of service and so ended up passing through various different railway companies. Some of the ones like the London, Brighton, South Coast, the London and South Western Railway and the South Eastern and Chatham Railway ones all eventually ended up under Southern Railway control, so they were kind of reunited. However, the ones that went to Portishead, they ended up with the Great Western Railway and didn't survive so well. They went to the Kent and East Sussex Railway, the railway that does seem to have escaped grouping, but did eventually get nationalised. So there's so many different liveries of these very versatile little locomotives. So we've got Wadden there, which was out in probably about 2001, 2002 Hornby model. I do also have Whitechapel, which was a much more recent release, but effectively it's the same model. A special note has to be said here for the Peckets. These were brought out, exquisite model from Hornby, and did a full-on review of these, running reviews, all sorts. And there's 2 in this cabinet. They have actually released 3 so far. There's also the Manchester Ship Canal one, and all 3 of these, I believe, are suitable for the pre-grouping period. So that is just like this little bonus one for you, that if you're wanting a small private owner locomotive for maybe shunting some sidings, don't overlook the Peckets because they are eminently suitable. Now, London and South Western Railway, another railway company. There's a few things that have been produced predominantly, if not exclusively, by Hornby. This is the Drummond N7, beautiful model. It's been produced in 2 different London and South Western Railway liveries. This is the one that was out slightly more recently. Then there's also the T9 they produced in London and South Western Railway livery for their Collectors Club. Highly desirable, never seen it about myself. I know of its existence, never managed to get one. And also the aforementioned Terrier also appeared in a suitable London and South Western Railway livery. So there's quite a few locomotives suitable, but again, lacking that rolling stock. That's going to come up again and again, that suitable rolling stock is so hard to find. Now, also Rans. One last company I'm going to talk about, Metropolitan Railway. Don't overlook these. Helgen produced the Metropolitan Vickers Bobo Electric. Seen here, John Milton in the slightly later livery named, and certainly the ones to look out for are the unnamed ones because they're the earliest. I do have one knocking about in a different display cabinet, but I'm going to show you this one because I'm quite contrary. But if you get the ones with no name on in this rather ornate livery, that's suitable for the pre-grouping period. So I think that's, oh no, one more locomotive. Must not overlook the Iver Atlantic here. Now this again produced as a special commission for the National Railway Museum, and this year is going to go into the main range. There is a Great Northern Railway liveried one, different running number to this, going into the main range later on this year, but this one still available for the National Railway Museum. We've done a full box opening and review of this, and again, problem, We've got an express locomotive, but nothing for it to pull. One thing I do recommend, though, is that the Hornby LNWR teaks do look the part, even if they're not actually the part. So there's a lot of mileage can be had by running with a rake of those coaches, even if not strictly accurate. You know, rule one, my railway, get lost, I'll run what I like. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all that there is to talk about from this cabinet, but I hope that that's been informative to you. A little overview of pre-grouping locomotives available, ready to run, and a little discussion about which liveries are suitable for when. Well, I hope that's been informative to you. Don't forget to like this video, share it too, and also subscribe to the channel. You can be the first to know about new things as and when they go up. And also, don't forget, you can leave in the comments down below suggestions about particular areas of rolling stock that you might want me to take a look at. And if I've got the items, I will do that in a future video, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, you take very good care of yourself. It's me, Jenny Kirk, saying thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye for now. Today's video was brought to you in part with the generous donations of those who've supported me on Patreon. A big thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson. If you want to see your name in lights, then pop on over to patreon.com/JenniferKirk. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.